welcome everybody and gather round. Joining in a moon circle today, I'm very privileged to welcome to the channel experienced teacher, astrologer and storyteller Britten LaRue to Celestia Astrology. So thank you, Britten, for joining us. I'm just going to read your bio here. Britten LaRue, MA, is a teacher, author, astrologer, known for helping big-hearted humans tap into and embody their malefic parts, the fierce, boundaried and truth-telling aspects of the self that make clarity, empowerment and specificity possible. Through her framework of emergence astrology and her year-round ecosystem, Living Emergence, Britten guides mystics, intuitives and creative visionaries in remembering their own wisdom and unshaming their magic. A former art historian turned speech artist of astrology, Britten's teaching merges scholarly precision with intuitive revelation, inviting her students to root their magic in lived reality. She is the host of beloved podcast Moon to Moon, which I highly recommend, co-host of Crystal Ballers, and the author of Living Astrology, How to Weave the Wisdom of All 12 Signs into Your Everyday Life. And I'll be putting links to this in the show notes. At the heart of her work is a devotion to collective transformation through intimacy and voice, helping others trust themselves again with the reckless freedom they deserve. I've got her social links here, and again, I'll post them in the links. Instagram, you can find her at Britten LaRue, and YouTube, Britten LaRue-astrology. So welcome, Britten. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I start by asking you, what do you think people are actually afraid of when they say they're afraid of their chart or astrology? I know I came to astrology and we were both initiated by connecting with the moon. Do you think the moon brings that fear up more than other planets?
Yeah, there's so much in that question.
It's a lot, but open and start wherever you like with that.
I think if I take myself back to first encountering my chart, I think one of the things I was afraid of was that maybe my chart wouldn't love me. I guess that's what's coming up for me is that, or that maybe I was letting it down, like it had a promise that I wasn't meeting because I was messing up my humaning. I think the chart is very confrontational, and I think that is at the heart of all of the work I do on unshaming, is helping us to be with all the various parts of us that are feeling afraid of our chart as a love letter that wants to tell us that we're doing a great job, because those are the parts that are all holding shame, which is the feeling that there's something wrong with us, that we aren't deserving, that we're messing it up, that we're just not good enough, that we're never meeting that standard. And so to bring the moon in here, I think because the moon connects us to the past and is, for me, has always been related to the inner child, and which there's a million inner children. We couldn't even begin to count all of our inner children, because it's like every moment of our younger self, including, I think, past lives as well as lineage information, because the moon is the carrier to me of all of that past material. It's those different bodies within us, it feels to me, that are the ones kind of like bracing and burdened by shame, bracing against and holding the shame. And so in engaging with our moon self, kind of one by one, every day, as things arise where we recognize we're triggered into that part of us, we are able to have a relationship with these different parts and begin that repair process, so that we can become the one that holds ourselves through the support of the moon, is what it feels like.
That's beautiful. How would someone start that process? That's a
Yeah.
big question.
Right, exactly. You may know, because I tell the story a lot, that in 2017, I looked up at the moon at a full moon in Capricorn, which is my moon. I mean, I'm not a full moon child, but I have a moon in Capricorn. I didn't know this at the time. I only knew I was Pisces. I didn't know that charts existed at this time. I looked up at the moon and I truly felt that the moon was talking to me and telling me to come learn with it, which felt like a coming home to myself, which felt like it's time to listen to yourself. And for context, for all the astrology lovers, I was at the beginning of a Neptune transit to my sun in Pisces, but I didn't know that. So things were starting to get really mystical in my life. And it started with that. And I had begun taking a class on intuition just a few months prior to this. I just started tuning into my inner voice. Never been invited to see this before. I had never been invited to be in engagement with my inner knowing, my ability to listen and attune. So I had never asked to feel the sensation of grounding before this class. So just learning basic energetics of grounding, sensing my aura, sensing my intuitive voice, sensing my energy versus someone else's energy. Like this had not ever been framed for me in language before. And I was rapidly changing because of it, which is very lunar. You know, the lunar is intuition. It is that inner place where and like it's beyond validation from outside of you. We're the only ones that can validate that. So this was the beginning of me learning about this, just learning that I'm actually the one to validate my gnosis. I'm the one who can validate what I hear and know is true. And if I'm sitting around waiting for someone else to validate it for me, that's just going to be me the rest of my life waiting, you know? So, yeah, so then I felt called to the moon within a month at the Great American Eclipse, which turns out was exactly on my Saturn. Didn't know that at the time. Part of my inner knowing was I needed to ask for a divorce. So I asked for a divorce. And then I looked up how to work with the moon, like literally in Google.
We've all been
This
there.
is 2017. Okay. So, like, astrology was on the rise culturally, but not quite, what it became just a year or two even later. How does one begin to learn about the moon? But I'm pretty skilled at finding teachers because I have a background in finding teachers in academia and like finding the source I want for my bibliography. So I just pretty quickly identified a few teachers that taught about lunar ritual because I didn't know what a new moon was and a first quarter moon or how you would even begin to conceive of that as a thing you quote unquote work with. So I started to do this practice with myself as like appointments with myself basically to tune inward but from different lenses because each of these phases kind of offers a new way into yourself. And I was noticing that people were referring to these phases and relationships to signs of astrology, which I didn't even understand how that could be so because I didn't know enough about astrology. And it was right around then that my brother sent me my chart and the new moon in Libra teaching from Chani Nicholas back when she did not have the app. Back then, she would just teach these like cycle teachings. And so when I saw my chart, it was like this great meeting and I couldn't wait to understand the language because I just sort of felt like I knew it. And it was so amazing learning that my moon is in Capricorn because it created so much context for myself. Because Pisces just doesn't is in alone, our sun sign alone does not
Yeah.
describe us. And I began to see that, like I drew in my journal at the time as I was learning about astrology this picture of like a vessel. And I was like, my moon is the vessel that holds my water. And I just was starting to really understand visually how I could make sense of the information from the chart because I knew that I had a really enduring and unwavering part of myself that I began to locate as my Capricorn moon, which I've never seen as a deficiency. I feel that Capricorn moon it's one of my best parts. So I think we have to be really careful with language around detriment and fall. Almost my whole chart is in detriment or fall. So I'm just saying that as an aside for students, because that's one of the ways you can be afraid of astrology is like if you're immediately confronted with the suggestion that something about your chart is bad or like undesirable, well, how is this helpful? So I think we can circle around to how it can be helpful to have these frames once we unshame the placements that we have and once we understand all of our placements as gifts, even if it hasn't always been easy. So I'm already realizing I may have lost your original question, but I wanted to share some about coming into the moon as both a real thing in the sky that you can actually have a relationship with in time and as something that's symbolic that is like pictured in a chart that we can begin to connect to the symbology around it and bring it into our lived experience.
So what I'm hearing you say is it was like identifying what your moon sign actually was, and then it's kind of validating because, like you say, that Capricorn moon has difficulties, and you've outlined them quite often in your writing about your earlier difficulties, but with the Saturn ruled moon, that matures and finds its place, and it navigates those difficulties and finds a way to really work with them and make something really concrete, build on those difficulties to make something lasting. And that's exactly what you've done. You know, you've worked and you've used those difficulties as fuel. So I really love that in how that's manifested for you. But I think for people to find out where their moon sign is like a really good starting place to make it personal to them, to not only know their sun sign but also their moon sign. But then you said about the rituals and the new moon and the full moon and just connecting in with those. So a lot of us notice the full moon because we can see her visually big and bright, but the new moon is harder to track because the sky is dark. So maybe we have to go to calendars, or almanacs or ephemerises, and that's a bit harder sometimes. But there's free resources out there like AstroSeek and Astro.com that you can get a moon tracker that will tell you if
Yeah.
you're not sure. And Chani Nichols is a great resource. She does a free app as well, and she'll tell you where those moon signs are. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's right.
and I was kind of laughing because that was the same thing that brought me into astrology. It was getting to know the moon first, but then there's this whole other language around this that I need to know. And it's like she just gently leads you in, doesn't she? She's like, you think you're just looking at this pretty moon, but no,
There's so much.
so much more. And then I'm wondering, like, about the different fears and what do you think lies underneath that? Like in terms of using or working with the moon for self-trust and empowerment, um, rather than being controlled, like giving our power away, maybe to an astrologer or to an app or something, where we suddenly, because I had to be very careful of that in my early days of like reading every day and sort of like, oh gosh, this transit is happening, and then going into fear on that, and trying to
Yeah.
find a way to help it empower me rather than going into that kind of fear.
Yes. Yes. So three consequences of shame I've learned are lack of self-trust, which is on a spectrum. It's not like we have self-trust or we don't have self-trust. It's on a spectrum. We're somewhere along there. In a given day, you can tune in with yourself with what you're facing and what you're holding, and you can ask, where am I on a spectrum of self-trust from 1 to 10, 10 being full trust, 1 being very little trust. And you can kind of sense like, oh, I'm at about a 6 on this, like you can really feel it. And then a practice that I teach is amplifying the trust dial, where you just give yourself, like, can you move it to 6.5? Just 6.5. Like, nobody's making you get to a 10 because you can't bypass your doubters. Those are also part of you too. But if it's really interesting to notice like where trust lives in the body when you imagine amplifying it, because then you can practice kind of being with that part of your body as it wants to expand a little bit. So intuition is self-trust, and self-trust is it's just so deeply connected to intuition. And so as intuitive beings, our relationship to self-trust is like everything. And so I think that one of the ways we can practice, I'm going to get back to the other consequences of shame. Stay with me.
Yeah.
My Capricorn moon knows where I left off. um, so as we are looking at astrologers talking about astrology, the most important thing to me is tuning inward to not just what are they saying so we can learn it mentally, but what's happening to me when I receive the information of the astrologer? Like, what's coming up in me? Do I not want this to be true? Am I scared? Do I feel dread? Do I feel excitement? Like, what's happening to my body inside of me when I'm hearing this information? Because to me, that's what is the most important thing, is your own information, which to me is you tuning inward to listen to your intuition. And self-trust builds the more you stay with yourself over time. It's not a thing that we can get to 10 on, maybe ever, but not a thing we can get to 10 on without time and practicing with time to mature, knowing how we stay with ourselves. So the second consequence of shame is a compulsion to fix yourself. A lot of people come to astrology or to wellness from a compulsion to fix ourselves, which is rooted in shame. It's rooted in there's something wrong with us. So we've got to fix it. We've got to fix this problem. And so there's kind of like this compulsive motor. You can like feel what that feels like in your body as you're listening, like that sense of like, I have to. And again, to come back to forecasts and horoscopes and things, we can notice where we are turning to forecasts and horoscopes from a kind of motor that's like, I have to like get my head around this. I have to memorize this. I have to know what this means so that I don't mess it up. You know, like there can be this like compulsive thing that can come in with astrology, which is not a problem because we all have shame. But it's, again, another thing that you can notice in yourself is like, that like automatic need to like get your head around it or control the information, returning to the self, like this is coming from that compulsion that's rooted in shame, and that's there's some moon part of us that wants to be seen and held. Then you can come back to it's fun to look at, like forecasts can be fun, new moon reads can be fun, you know, like returning to astrology because it's fun. It like enhances your life. Like it's amazing. It's full of wonder. Like that's really the vibe that it wants to be, it feels like to me. But we have to be aware, because we all have shame, that it can also come from a compulsive place. And then the third consequence of shame is feeling like you don't have permission. Like you have to wait for somebody to validate what you're thinking. You have to wait for permission to fill in the blank. And so I like to teach on the frequency of audacity, because audacity is a really helpful frequency for busting up the shame and going ahead and giving yourself permission, because that can happen with forecasting and horoscopes, is like this sense of the experts know better than me. Like I don't have permission to say that actually really like how that transit went, even though they said it was bad. Or like, I have permission to be like, thanks for your opinion, but I'm going to get my own data. So I encourage my students to be field researchers and see all transits as opportunities to collect data, like take notes in your journal, like what's happening in your life is what's happening in your life. Don't omit data because the expert never said that that could happen with that transit. And that way you start to put everything on the table to look at. And when everything's on the table, now you can actually notice patterns that other people aren't talking about and bring people into conversation who were like, I was seeing that too, but the experts didn't mention it. And this way you can have an empowered relationship to transits because you don't have to believe anything a so-called expert is saying. And they're all of those are interwoven because it takes more and more self-trust to do that, you know? So like it's all of it is a practice every day being in relationship to astrology and the parts of yourself who are noticing yourself. And I would say it's the moon part of you that you turn to be like, how am I doing? What is coming up in me? What am I hearing? What am I noticing? Where does it hurt? Where does it feel good? And that act is how you weave self trust.
That's so beautiful. I mean, I work with mindfulness and we talk about the observer and learning to recognize when your inner voice is that negative self-talk that you find of turning that I can't do something into I can't yet, or something that voice is always there, and just learning to notice when that's happening. And that's part of building that self-trust as well, is noticing that these voices are going on all the time. We're built to notice the negative things around us. But yeah.
That's true.
And also with astrologers and forecasts, like all astrologers will interpret differently. There's so many different schools of astrology, and at the end of the day, it's symbols of the sky, and we all interpret, and yet it can show up in our world in so many glorious ways. And like you said, that's how I started, was just like a challenge of how can this show up? Like, it's going to show up somehow, but how? And just be excited about how might this show up. And it's so wonderful when it does show up in a really strange and wonderful way.
Yes, yes, it's so true.
Yeah.
And it's like in like an art studio, if you have all these different people creating based on the same model, all those works of art are going to look so different. And
Mm.
it's really it's like trusting yourself that you will gravitate and navigate toward those who paint and craft and speak in ways that just feel really, really good to your body and your heart. And it's about resonance.
Yeah. Yeah, you find the voices that are attuned and make you feel, if you want to feel safe and comfortable, or if you want the drama. Some people like, doom, the doom scrolling, and that gets the clicks. But personally, I like to feel a little bit safer and have it a little bit more grounded. And just
Yes,
open to
please.
all the possibilities, because like you said, the universe just continues to amaze us in all these wonderful ways. And I like those possibilities to be kept open. And I like your work because it allows for that too.
Where's your moon?
I'm in Aries. It's applying to Saturn. So it's
Oh
probably
my
why I resonate with
gosh.
you as a Capricorn moon as well.
And I'm Aries rising.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. Yeah. Yeah. We're going to have a time, aren't we, when Saturn moves soon?
Yes. Yeah, my ascendant's at 3. So it's coming up here.
Yeah. My moon's at 1.
Oh my goodness.
But I'm having a lovely time with Neptune there. It's like the dreams are awesome.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wow.
But yeah, getting to know that moon and Saturn there was quite a journey. It took me some time, and it was quite a calibration time. I went up and down, quite a journey getting to know it. And it was like,
Hmm.
do I want to get to know astrology more? I didn't know at first. So it took some guts, really, I suppose. It was quite the deepest thing. And yet, like you said it as well, it was like a remembering something that I already knew. It wasn't always like new information. It was like a remembering of this information that I'd known before. It was something I was
Oh.
compelled to learn. If somebody's listening to us and thinking, okay, I need to know about my moon and where is it, and they might have heard about houses as well, and they see astrologers talking about sometimes mundane astrologers will say it's in the 12th house for this location or the 10th house or something. If they want to know what house it's in for them, maybe Charney Nichols can help on her app. But if we think of the moon as a mirror, what would it be telling us? Like if they are able to find out their house, or what would you say is a simple way to find out what house their natal moon is in? The moon that was there when they were born. If they find out they're a Capricorn moon or an Aries moon or any of the other 12 signs, whatever it's got to tell them. And then they find out about their house. What mirror is that
Yeah.
holding up to them?
So the way I think about it and tend to phrase it is if you think about each of the houses as a department of human experience, to me the houses really bring the sky to planet Earth. And it's like these are the realms of types of things that we encounter as humans. Anything you can possibly name that you go through as a human, there's a house for that. And so when we have a placement in that house, it can be really helpful to wonder about how that particular planet, that placement is helping us with navigating that realm of human life. And so, because at the most basic, I like to speak about the moon as relating to emotional safety and security and what we do to receive love and validation. And we learned that very young, maybe pre memory.
Mm.
There can be information there about just like that being the realm of life where there's the most kind of strain, you might say, or striving to get that emotional safety, security, love, and validation. For me, it's the 10th house
Yeah.
of career and public reputation. So some people may have a house that's like out in the world, you know? So that safety for me was always like, there was always, before I knew astrology, just such a striving to feel like I was offering something valuable, useful, purposeful to the world. And with that, there was also a sense of disappointment that I was somehow like not providing something meaningful to people. But I think what that was is the intelligence of me moving toward what like is really like the root thing that I want to give from the fruits falling off my proverbial tree, which would be the 10th house, like the fruits that are falling from you that you're now giving away. So finding my mystical path I began to feel very in my moon because now I just very naturally felt like soothed,
Mm.
like that soothing of like I feel so connected to doing something meaningful for the world. I love how this feels. I feel safe, like emotionally safe. At the same time, as I learned about astrology, I realized that I can also provide that sense of safety, security, love, and validation for myself so that I don't have to like pull it so hard from the realm of life where my moon is, you know? And so I think it can be really helpful to look at the affairs of that house and just like tune inward. Like, is there for me a sense of like a striving to be safe? Like, can I get safe here? Is safety here? How can I get safe here? And that then be really helpful information for helping yourself and nourishing yourself and loving yourself and helping yourself know that you're safe because you've got you. And then as those parts of you feel safe, you can actually show up as that resource for others. It's just harder to be a deep resource for others when we're like empty because we're hollowed out from striving so hard that we don't feel nourished by ourselves. So that's kind of the game I feel like with moon is like learning how to restore your own nourishment, like regenerate yourself
Mm.
nourishment wise, so that then you have more to give from that place that's actually pretty natural where our moon is in the chart. Does that resonate for you?
Yes, absolutely. And then you're more able to share with others because your cup is full. It's like you can't pour
Mm-hmm.
from an empty cup, that saying, isn't it? You have to,
Mm-hmm.
or putting your oxygen mask on first before you can help others. It's the same thing
Mm-hmm.
when the moon has nurtured you, you're then able to help others with it and pass that along. But yeah, knowing where it is helpful as well. That's the area of life where you need that safety and that nurturing to really be
Yeah.
pure, and then where you can offer it to others as well.
Yeah, I feel like when we're on a kind of automatic strain to get the nourishment, we can't really see straight, actually. So, this picture you're bringing in of the mirror is really helpful, I think, because when you allow yourself to be in an encounter with yourself, you're able to slow down and look at yourself and see, where am I hurting? Where am I straining? Where am I looking for something to fill me up because I feel empty?
Mm,
And that is the beginning of an incredible relationship with yourself that the moon is facilitating, I would say.
mm,
And it allows yourself to be less on automatic so that you are much more in presence. Because I do think the moon says a lot about presence, especially because like the moon in the sky is like so there, at least when we can see the moon. It's just like this presence. And we know that the moon is with us even when we can't see the moon.
mm,
There's this presence. And we become that to ourselves when we have the courage to be in relationship with the mirror, which is self-confrontation, just meaning just to look at yourself. These encounters with yourself allow you to see what you need and then take care of yourself. That's because the moon is about care at the end of the day. So that's what's, I think, so healing and repairing about working with the moon is it brings you back into presence with care to yourself. And then as you're full, you can bring it out to others and just let the overflow be what serves others rather than the draining out.
yeah, yeah, because it's critical that you don't drain yourself and give. It's disastrous. I've been through that cycle as an Aries moon
Mm.
before I understood the the Aries and the Moon Saturn relationship. I reached that burnout point so many times, and now I understand it better and I'm able to say, like to my colleagues, okay, I'm feeling it. I need to just slow the pace a little bit and really understand that and honor my body and its needs as well. Because I will work through the night if needed.
I know. Yeah, I mean that
There's no
Capricorn
break.
moon,
Yeah,
just totally. Like I was like, how little sleep can I still do this on? Like
yeah,
how can I keep running this? And then I think it's really helpful then when you can distinguish like what is depletion from draining myself out because I so desperately want to feel like a valid human being from just like, wow, I actually have this superpower that I can stay with the thing that matters to me a very long time. And
yes,
that is the gift of my Capricorn
yeah,
moon is I really can actually, but it's like learning to tell the difference between grind and gift.
yes, yeah. When it's helpful and
Mm.
useful, you've got that extra like rocket boost or, or focus and Saturnian durability and maturity that you can bring to it, which is wonderful. I've got that Mars action and motivation that's gonna really see it through as long as I focus it in the right place.
So true.
And it's different for everybody, of course, and moon phase and so many other things that come into it. Do you work? Do you look at the moon phase? And
Yeah, I mean, I used to do it more because I haven't been doing as much one-on-one work because my work lately has been so focused on teaching and mentorship. But I found moon phases in the chart, I assume you mean, to
yeah,
be really helpful as well as the progress lunar cycle phase that you're in. I studied I was an autodidact for a long time, and I was particularly reading Demetra George, who talks a lot about moon phase in her work. So that was kind of there from the beginning for me. My sun and moon are in an exact sextile. It's that it's past the third quarter, but not quite balsamic. So it's like darkening. but
Mhm.
it was like a sliver in the sky when I was born because I have a 12th house sun.
That's nice.
What about you?
I'm just past a full moon. So
Okay.
same thing. It's like kind of preparing to do that releasing. I'm like still meditating on exactly what that means for me. But a Leo sun. So it's like, but right at the 29th degree. So it's like, okay, it's a lot to do with sustaining and just what am I keeping? What am I letting go?
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, I
holding on
really,
too long to a lot of things.
yes. I really resonated with at first I thought I was a balsamic moon because basically did the math wrong in my head.
Mm,
And it really resonated because a lot of what you read about balsamic sounds very 12th house.
yes.
And because I have all these 12th house placements, I was like, well, it's just one more example.
Yeah.
Just like it's like surrender. um, but actually wept when I realized, oh my God, I did the math wrong. I'm actually like the phase right before balsamic because it really, the way Demetra talks about it, it has a lot to do with confronting the structures and systems that you were handed and doing a lot of like active magic at releasing yourself from the spell of those of that condition, that kind of conditioning. And it really resonated with me because I do feel like so much of what I put out in the world is speaking truth to what's harmful that we've just been handed, and we believed like good students and
Mm,
sincere children, who trust the adults in charge. And I think that, yeah, that really resonated with me as what had my service has become. So I think for listeners, there's a book Demetra George wrote called Astrology and the Authentic Self, where she has a whole chapter on these phases. And
mm.
it's a great book for people who are past beginner and who are really interested in learning delineation. Yeah, I really like that book. It was
Yeah.
important to me in my early years.
The dark moon as well. That's beautiful as well. That's
Yeah.
really,
Oh gosh, I love that book. But it's less astrology. It's
yes.
more
Yeah.
mythology, but so important. Yeah. I also love her new Hellenistic books.
Yes. Yeah. They were well, volume one was our textbook for year one and then two for year.
Okay.
So yeah, we
Yeah.
work very closely with those and they're really good for grounding into everything
Yeah.
with and the exercises in there as well. You could self-teach with that book.
Yes. In some of my inner circles with my students, we refer to her as Queen Demetra.
Yes, I'm not surprised. There's some lectures I go to, and sometimes you see that she's attending, and it's just like there's this buzz, like Demetra's in the room.
We just owe her so much.
We do, yeah, yeah.
I was
She,
like, her work on the asteroids, like, just wow.
yeah,
What an
and
incredible gift she's given everyone. I actually don't know her chart. It's
no,
gonna be kind of
she,
interesting to see.
yeah, yeah. She doesn't share that widely.
Yeah, right.
She's I'm just thinking of people listening if they don't know the birth time and they're new to this and they're interested to find out. If they don't know the birth time, how would you say they could still work with the moon, couldn't they? They could still find out what their moon sign is.
Yeah, because the moon changes signs every 2.5, 3 days. There's a decent chance that the whole of the day you were born, it was in the same sign. But if it's at the beginning, if you look at up your birthday and the moon is either at the beginning or the end of a sign based on the moment you cast, then you'll hopefully have a parent that will remember, like you were born in the morning. There are people whose job is to help you find your birth time. So you can always research astrologers who do
Mm.
rectification. But yeah, there are people I know from my personal life that I wish I knew their birth time. And, if it happens that the moon is at the beginning or the end of the sign, it's like then just like, what's my hunch?
Yeah. As astrologers, we pounce on anybody who volunteers their birth time, don't we?
Yeah. It's fun.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to add as well, also the signs themselves, they alternate, don't they, between like masculine and feminine. And we don't really mean gender here. We mean in their expression of one is very outgoing and one is very inward looking. So that's another way you might reflect on like your needs for nurturing. Have you found that with, so for example, Aries is more outwardly expressive, but then Taurus is more inwardly receptive and will nurture things. Well, then you go to Gemini, and again, it's outward, it's social, it's gregarious. So
Air and fire being the outward moving and the water and earth being more inward. Of course, we have all of these parts of us, but
yes,
then the moon part of you, it may resonate that you want your feelings want to be more expressive or might want to be more like met internally first before expressing.
yeah,
And for sure, I mean, for sure, that's true for me with an earth sign. My Scorpio moon daughter, no one's allowed to know anything about her feelings until she has processed them and metabolized them all by herself.
yes. That tracks. But that's a
Yeah,
good way
but
if you're
then,
stuck between deciding, if the moon changed that day and you're trying to decide between two signs, that's a good way to sort of ask the question,
mhm.
how do I deal with these feelings? Do I share openly, or am I thinking about them first? But I'm not a good example because I think about them for a day or two before I before I figure them out. But that might be the house placement more than the signs. So sometimes it doesn't work, but it's a good place to start.
Yeah, it's my sun sign is Pisces. That's where I have Mercury and Venus as well. And
Mm.
I will cry at commercial music, I cry in movies and show like
Yeah.
anything on a screen or music, art. I can cry so quickly. If I see a show, like a play or a dance, my daughters like to look over like, oh, I bet mom's already crying. But my own feelings, like with my
Mm.
Capricorn moon, I really have had to just learn how to listen because I am super skilled at not feeling my own feelings and having like no idea what they want to tell me. And I do
Mm.
think our feelings are part of what we're here to experience as human beings and bodies. Like we get to be beings that feel, but so many of us were shamed into not feeling or see having feelings as weaknesses. So the practices we were talking earlier about attuning to yourself, a lot of that came from, for me, like it was not easy to know how I feel. It's been just like a long process of being with my body to feel safe in allowing them to even talk to me. But repair is possible and it's miraculous and beautiful and amazing to be in relationship to your feelings. But some listeners may identify with like we have intelligent reasons why we may have learned not to feel or learned to just not be bothered by our feelings. But that doesn't mean we don't have them or that they don't aren't actually motivating our behavior unbeknownst to us,
Mm.
consciously. So it's really helpful to be in relationship with your feelings because then you can understand like why do I do these things? Like why do I do these things? Oh, because they're still operating inside of us even if we're not
Mm.
conscious about them. So I feel more skillful in life when I understand like kind of the intelligence of what's behind my behaviors. And I always like to feel more skillful. That's kind of, it's kind of a Saturn thing, I think.
Yeah. Yeah,
Skill.
but it's this learning journey we're on called astrology, isn't it? And it never ends. That's what's so lovely about it. It's not like you learn for 6 months and then you're done. It's
No, nobody knows everything about astrology. Maybe Demetra,
maybe. Yeah.
but like it's not possible. So it's really just start where you are or be where you are, and you can slowly learn forever. There's no finish line.
and the moon, she's the gift that keeps giving. She'll always be surprising us and offering more.
Always.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because we're always surprising ourselves.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful.
I think she teaches us as much as we're able to manage at any time. She just like a little bit more, pushes us a little bit further each time.
Yeah, it's so true. We don't have to go any further than we have the capacity for today.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's good care.
Yeah. So if somebody's listening and they're thinking, okay, so we've got these new moons and full moons, and we were talking about rituals, and they want to start really simple, just something they can do for, say, 3, 5 minutes. They just want to do something. What might we suggest that they start with on a new moon or a
Yeah, I think that you mean getting going with the lunar cycle.
yes, yeah. If they're going
Yeah.
to, if they've decided, okay, I'm going to track this moon and see what this is
Yeah.
all about.
I mean, I think we're dealing with circles here, so you really can't come in anywhere. But I certainly think a new moon is a great time because to me, it's like you come to this place of all possibilities exist for empowering change in this world. Blank page, blank canvas, all possibilities exist. And so from there, you can really paint a picture with yourself about what would be the most empowering, liberating, loving, exuberant, fun, meaningful experience to have in the next 4 weeks with where my life is today and what I'm learning right now with the planets and kind of set the course and then let it grow. But you don't have to manage it because life is going to bring you life. So it's just like in a week, when you're at the first quarter, you're going to have a lot of new material. Like a lot of things have come up in the collective, a lot has come up interpersonally, a lot is coming up in yourself. And like, how are you staying with the course of how you set your route? ROUTE, like your route. And if you've been pulled in a totally another direction, it's not a problem. It's just, it's then very helpful to have awareness. So for
Mm.
me, daily journaling along these points is just, I mean, I've been at it now, I guess, 9 years. So I don't really think about it as much. It's just what I do. But staying with how are you doing? That's the most basic question. How are you? How am I doing? And everything needs to be about how you're feeling because when we have these pictures about what success looks like or what manifestation has to be or whatever, then we can really get pulled away from listening to ourselves because we're striving for this picture of success rather than actually being with ourselves. And I also really love realizing my dreams and manifesting and bringing things through from my vision and my visions so I can adjust as I go with compassion for all that's also coming up that I didn't see at the new moon.
Yeah.
So I do think there's a huge flowering sensation about a full moon, and it's everything's being illuminated. Like, this is what's going on right now. And if you have a lot of shame, you might read all that information through a lens of failure, disappointment, or scarcity. But this is what if it's all here to love on you? What would be the most loving way to listen to yourself in your life? And then on the way back down, as the moon disseminates, it's a beautiful time to like be backward and like, what was that? Who was I when I went through that? Let me be with myself where I need to be with myself. What do I want to let go of here? Because that was a limiting belief I now see. And it can be just like a beautiful time to come in as like a wise elder to rearrange things so that you don't get hijacked by distortions or like false idols or just stuff you don't need to be taking on that's not yours. It's harder to see that, I think, in the first half of the lunar cycle because you're in the muck.
Mm.
On the other side, you can look backward and be more wise with yourself and kind of just do all of the clearing that's needed so that at the new moon again, you can come through as like a wiser elder version of yourself. And you can do that every single moon, which is why I call my podcast Moon to Moon.
Beautiful. So yeah, people need to catch that, and I've found it on YouTube, but it's also on the podcast platforms that
You
I'm on.
found it in YouTube?
Yeah, yeah, it's on
Oh
YouTube.
my gosh. I've been just kind of sliding them in there, just like, well, just let it grow.
Yeah,
That's fun to hear.
yeah. Oh, Britton, thank you so much for joining us. There's so much there to unpack and enjoy. So I hope this has
Thank
been.
you. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. I'm just so grateful you've joined us and shared all this just beautiful lunar information.
Thank you.